Today I'm joined by Meghan Gardner, who is the director of GuardUp's Guardian Adventures. Welcome, Meghan.
Thank you very much.
All right, so what is Guardian Adventures?
So we do interactive educational adventures that are based on stories. So typically these are live adventures where kids and adults come in and they play through a storyline where they're a hero in the story. So think of kind of an online video game and like Dungeons and Dragons or World of Warcraft, only it's without the computers. So the kids dress up, or even the adults, depending on the age range, and they jump into the adventure, and we adjust the plot with our actors and our instructors according to their decisions. It's very immersive with a lot of props and costumes, and then it's also educational. So in order for the kids to power up like in a video game, they have to learn STEM. So in order to cast spells like a wizard, they actually have to learn physics because the spells are based in physics. So if you're going to be a sword fighter, you learn geometry. If you're going to be an alchemist, you're going to learn chemistry, and a healer would learn biology. And then we do a bunch of different versions of this. So that's our largest program, but we also do consulting, and we are just starting the phase of licensing our program.
Okay, so you guys primarily focus on offline
You got it.
STEM educational programs and camps. So since the COVID-19 quarantine, you guys have since moved online temporarily. So how are you guys able to enact some of these STEM-based games and adventures?
That's a good question. Fortunately, we kind of saw this coming a couple of weeks ahead of time. We were watching what was going on around the globe, and we're like, there's a good chance this is going to hit here. So we immediately started looking into Google Classroom and Zoom, and we started play testing exactly how to do that. How do we transfer what we're doing in a live environment, which we're very proud of, by the way, and take that into a computer environment or platform, but not lose that aspect of that face-to-face and that live interaction and that the communal feel that happens in a live environment. And so we decided that a video conferencing platform is definitely better, as opposed to doing more like a strict online game environment where you're mostly looking at the screen for the screen to tell you what's going on. Most of the time you're actually looking at the instructor who might be dressed in a costume and telling you what's going on. So we took our classes, all the classes and events, including our upcoming spring break, and possibly, if it goes this long, our summer camps will be moved into this environment. Where we're going to, we have an instructor sitting just like I am right now. Usually they have a green screen behind them, displaying some background, and they can be in costume, and they weave the story. They have it all done out ahead of time. There's a lot of prep that goes into these. And the attendees all sign on, so they're in video mode so they can all see each other. And the teacher, instructor walks them through what they see, but they also now can pull up images that they might be able to see. So they have like pictures of dragons, if you see a dragon or something like that. And or even like, this is what you see, and they put up an image of it, like a long dark hallway in the dungeon of a castle. And then the kids all have to decide what to do from there as a group. Then we have breakout rooms in Zoom, which allows us to we have multiple instructors bring different groups out to make different decisions and decide on different actions. And so it's actually doing very well. I'd say about 90% of our clients are already over onto the online format. We've helped a lot of our clients. Even though we're a for-profit company, we don't turn away anyone who can't afford our adventures. So we provide scholarships for people who've been laid off, and we just pause their billing and get them back into the classroom. So we're just going to keep doing this. Now, the other interesting thing is we actually started pulling in our clients who are seasonal. So they don't live local to us. And we only see them in the summertime when they fly in for our summer camps in person. But now they're signing up for this online experience so that they can get together with a bunch of their friends who they know from summer camp and enjoy these adventures. And then our latest thing is we actually brought our birthday parties online. because there are a lot of kids out there who don't have access to a birthday party right now, and that really sucks. So we put together these online adventures just like we do live, and the kids navigate an adventure. And there's a bunch of different things we're doing to help also keep the kids active. So an example is that for one of our groups, like we had one kid who had to run outside to go hug a tree so that they could gather the special abilities of photosynthesis so that they could gather energy from the source of the sun and be able to use that to cast a spell. We have kids who are doing push-ups and jumping jacks in order to increase the health points of their characters. So we're trying to get the kids up and out of their seats as much as possible and physically engaged like they would be in the live adventure.
So I think in terms of the selling point, especially for the parents that are listening, is that on their own, kids, let's say primary and secondary, are going to resort to gaming, their iPads or iPhones, Netflix, and some of those kind of binging, passive activities. But here, it's combining STEM education with narrative storytelling. It's almost kind of done in a multiplayer fashion with online conferencing platform, and you're incorporating physical aspects. So you're basically captivating these kids that would otherwise go bonkers and probably intervene into their parents' Zoom meetings and whatnot, and giving them an outlet that allows them to connect with other kids so they don't feel that sense of isolation. There's a physical play, there's a creative play, and then of course there's learning, and they may or not know explicitly that they're actually learning something around science, mathematics, and nature, and so forth. So it's really intriguing, and I really appreciate the fact that you guys are really thought through. It sounds like you guys have been very methodical about the transition. While most businesses have been fairly reactive, you guys were proactive enough to figure, okay, how would this format be translated into an online experience? So that's very, very interesting. Now, do some of the kids also, aside from changing the backgrounds, also play into the kind of role playing by putting on costumes and those things as well?
Oh, sure. Yeah. If you go on our website, you can actually see some great photos and videos. We have some highlight reels. The neat thing about Zoom and Google Classroom, you can record the videos, and then we have a marketing coordinator who edits together highlight reels, and the parents love that. And now we have parents even sending us photos. They sneak in behind the kid and take a picture of them playing, dressed up in costume or playing with the other kids on the screen, and they're sending us the photos. But the feedback from the parents thus far has just been phenomenal. I mean, we have a long list of testimonials on our website now of parents just saying, like, really heart-wrenching things, like one child went in to the adventure and came out, and the parent said, "This is the first time I've seen them smiling, engaged, and acting like a kid since the entire world went crazy."
Yeah, yeah, that's a great point. And then you also mentioned birthday parties, which is very intriguing. My son, who's in middle school, has a friend that recently celebrated his birthday this week, and because of the quarantine, he's been quite bummed out that he can't have his friends over. So the parents basically facilitated kind of this carpool, where everybody's in a car at the end of the cul-de-sac. They remain inside the car, but they have posters and signs and whatnot, and they're kind of singing happy birthday from the cars, and the birthday boy's in the middle of the street. So it's very interesting that we can actually celebrate, we can actually connect, and we can, in fact, entertain and engage one another, even in this kind of physical isolation. And this is a very interesting way for us to explore as kind of a human species in this kind of digital age. Any last thing that you want to share before you share in terms of your website and that kind of information?
Just our website contains all the information about our various programs, as well as the new online. We actually created a new online menu item that just goes through all of our various online programming. And then we're also still consulting with companies on how to move their. So this is kind of an important concept, is that we have we specialize in what we call high touch versus high tech. So high tech is pretty much what we're doing right now. And it's also any experience that involves a lot of technology, but usually not in person and face-to-face activities. So high touch is hands-on. We're working around a table together. We're building things. And it's a very different level of interactivity as well as a different type of intelligence that's important. And that's why our unplugged versions of our adventures are so important. But what we're realizing when this pandemic hit is that I don't think any company by itself can be one or the other, high tech or high touch. I think we're coming to a place in our society where you have to be both. You actually have to be an online experience, a high tech experience, and an offline experience. Because I'll tell you this, the next big pandemic is probably going to be through the internet. And it's going to take down our internet and our infrastructure. And we're going to be sitting back going, wait, all these internet companies are going to be crashing because they don't have an offline version. So what I think it's important for companies to look at who are strictly online is how do I get an offline version so that I can transfer my clients over to that and at least have some kind of revenue coming in. Or the other side of it, and I would add media to that, like television shows and stuff like that, but they should have a live offline version. So example is Sesame Street has Sesame Place, which is a theme park that's dedicated to them. So that's an example of that. But on the other side of it is that if you have an offline version and you're strictly offline, you might want to consider getting to an online version. So one of our clients is Royal Caribbean, and they are the largest cruise line company in the industry. So one thing we're thinking about is should we be talking to them about getting an online version of the experience so that their clients, your company isn't at a standstill when one aspect of the way you deliver your service is taken out.
Yeah, this is a really interesting topic, and I wish we had a little bit more time. Just to caveat, aside from the dystopian scenarios, the really germane topic that I think it is really relevant for us to discuss is this notion of, the permutations and the future of businesses, especially smaller businesses, where, typically I think our mindset is that digitalization, like that of Amazon and others, have essentially decimated the likes of smaller businesses that are the backbone of America. But what we're seeing is that from a general trend is if you are going to have a physical presence, it's not about commerce, it's not about transactions, but rather it's about experiences. It's about engagement and new experiences that cannot be necessarily or easily replicated online. So that's why you have a physical. So, but then counterbalancing that with an online presence as a hedge, and a product portfolio, that's a very intriguing model. And then vice versa, if you're only e-commerce or only online, to have a physical portion or play, it doesn't have to be permanent. It could be a pop-up or it could just be an event. But the fact that you have this, physical manifestation of that brand or that experience really kind of helps people to connect with that brand on a deeper level.
Yeah,
So glad to hear that you guys are really thinking through that as well as advising others.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, I think I even saw an Amazon store front the other day where Amazon is now basically carrying their products in a storefront. And I'm like, oh, look at that. They're going to an offline version, which is going to be really important if they do find that their servers crash. Now, that would be huge. Of course, if Amazon went down, the world goes down. But then, it made me think that here's a company that's looking and saying, how do we have a further reach than just the online presence? And I really think that that's got to be the future for any company coming up. And now the affordability of doing, say with a pop-up store, you have the affordability of doing an offline version, even if you're a small online company. And because of things like Zoom and cheap website hosting, you have the ability to do an online version if you are an offline experience. So the biggest question is, how do you do that? And that's what, I think that's where we excelled, was in immediately translating that. And that's largely because I hire innovators, because we're storytellers. Our job is to adapt our story literally on the fly. So as we write the story, the kids navigate the story, they make a decision. They make a decision we didn't see coming. We have to literally improv the very next scene. So it's we only hire people who have that ability to pivot immediately, and that really paid out for us when this happened, because I had a whole team of people who came around and they weren't saying, "What are we going to do?" They came in saying, "Here's one thing we can do. Here's another thing we can do," and they just started listing them off. They immediately started finding resources for us, and literally the day after we closed our facility, we were online with all of our experiences. We kept our schedule was unbroken, and we were immediately bringing our clients right into the online experience.
All right, so we're gonna wrap it up here. I think the takeaway for me is that regardless of the medium, and I think technology has played a great role in the transformation of the human society. At the same time, what is core to our human psyche and just the way our brain works is storytelling, and that's the thing that's most powerful. And regardless of the channels and the mediums, we tell stories and we tell great stories. And I think that's what you're really talking about. So with that, I've been joined by Meghan Gardner, who is the director of Guard Up, Guardian Adventures.
Thank you very much.